Hello and welcome to edition 6 of the Virtual SG series. For the purpose of this video, only the walking sections will be covered. This trip presents the tourists with an overview of the development of Singapore by making stops at Marina Bay, Singapore City Gallery, and Mount Faber Peak. As the tour covers Marina Bay and Singapore River, it should emphasize the transformation of the district from third world to first. This is reinforced and extended at the Singapore City Gallery with ideas of what the future of Singapore may become. Finally, the stop at Mount Faber Peak presents a bird's eye view of southern Singapore. Although the itinerary wishes to emphasize the murals below the lookout point, which I do not agree with, we will nevertheless cover it for the sake of the program. Our story begins at the mouth of the Singapore River, and a tribute to the origins of this city. This 8.6-meter tall fountain, with the head of a lion and body of a fish, was first unveiled in 1972 after 8 years as the logo of the Singapore Tourist Promotion Board. Officially called a Merlion, it symbolizes in an icon Singapore's roots. The lion is the source of Singapore's name, for the island got its name from the Sanskrit word for lion, Singa. Legend says that a Srivijayan prince on the run encountered a storm off the coast. It forced him to come ashore, whereupon he spotted a lion in the distance. He took it as an omen to found a kingdom, the Kingdom of Singapura. The fish body represents the island's ties to the sea, then and now. While the kingdom did not last, the name lived on, adapted upon the arrival of the British into what is now Singapore. Through the British, its industrialization and maritime commerce, Singapore thrived as a trading port in the greater empire. All the land before us was sea then that ships would drop anchor into. Lighter boats would then shuttle between them and the warehouses along the Singapore River with goods and supplies. Meanwhile, passengers would disembark at the Clifford Pier nearby, seeking jobs and opportunities. When containerization of shipping became preeminent in the 1970s, these activities moved increasingly towards specialized ports at Tanjong Pagar and Keppel. New users had to be found as activities hollowed out. The most innovative use must be the conversion of the entire Singapore River and Marina Bay into a freshwater reservoir, enhancing the water security of the nation further with an additional catchment of fresh water. Where once the Merlion spouted seawater, it now spouts freshwater. Where once it faced the open sea of ships, it now faces a bay of recreational sailing boats, as evident by the looming Marina Bay Sands resorts and Singapore Flyer. Economic activities have expanded beyond pure shipping, encapsulated best by the Merlion today, a must-do photo op for any tourist visiting Singapore. The Merlion guards the mouth of the Singapore River, the river whose several quays are once and still is the mainstay of commercial activity. In the colonial era, merchants were allocated the South Bank, while government officers occupied the North. The two being heavily reliant on each other for the conduct of business, were then connected across the river by several bridges, the oldest of which is Cavenagh Bridge. This suspension bridge was completed in 1869, 50 years into the founding of modern Singapore, while the truss-framed Anderson Bridge, which we just crossed moments ago, was finished in 1909. Today, traffic is light on both these bridges, eclipsed by the larger Esplanade Bridge, in subway tunnels running underneath the river, part of the MRT network connecting all parts of town in the island. The new Palladian style building, which today houses the Asian Civilization Museum, was completed in 1867 and served as government offices until as late as the 1980s. It was formerly called Empress Place Building after Queen Victoria, with the vicinity also adopting this name due to the many institutions named in her honor, including the Town Hall, which is today's Victoria Theatre and yesterday's Victoria Memorial. This open space, along with the opposite bank of the river, Before the tall office buildings of today was once a foodie paradise with hawker stalls dotting the waterfront. Unfortunately, along with the warehouses of Boat Quay in the distance and further upriver, the intensity of these activities and the habit of residents taking the river for a dump meant that the Singapore River suffered from heavy pollution for a very long time. It smelled so bad that a person could find his way to the river by just the use of his nose alone. That this river carries the name of the country meant it was extremely likely that this was the image and smell that flooded one's mind when Singapore was mentioned. Our first Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew was determined to change that. So, it was not by coincidence that the Merlion icon was introduced at about the same time he decided to undertake a 10-year river cleanup exercise. The 10-year project was an exercise also in urban renewal, as a sustainable cleanup also involved the rezoning of land use in the river's catchment area. The markets disappeared, along with cottage industries, farms, and any other pollutive business. In its place is a lifestyle destination of river cruises, bars, and restaurants in what was once warehouses at Boat Quay. And so it was that the images and smells that assaulted one's mind when Singapore is mentioned was changed. The development of Singapore, however, extended beyond the physical. It was also psychological and social, as the mentality of its citizens was also developed and refined by a series of campaigns and penalties, especially on littering. In fact, while it is widely established that Singapore is a fine city, we are lesser known but equally aggressive as a campaign city. In terms of physical development, planning and coordination between different government agencies is carried out by the Urban Renewal Authority. This authority guides the land use in Singapore, including the approval of developments, land sales, and conservation of monuments. Here at the Singapore City Gallery, visitors may gain an insight into the future of Singapore. The small size of the nation, being an island over just 700 square kilometers, but with a population of over 6 million, merits careful use of spaces, much like a tiny house. The authority achieves this by producing a concept plan 50 years into the future, reviewed and elaborated further every 10 years. It is from such plans that specializations have been developed over parts of the island. Such specializations include Changi Airport, Jurong Petrochemical Complex, Central Catchment Area, and Tuas Port, with residential districts in between and well served by transport links, parks, and other amenities. The core central area receives special attention and detailed planning, as shown by the bigger scale model of the district. As a center of commerce, one may be surprised to learn that half of the scale model did not exist as recently as 50 years ago. Massive land reclamation was carried out in the 1970s to create the city center that we know of today without sacrificing the historical areas of old Singapore town. These reclaimed areas are obviously demarcated by tall and modern buildings in the absence of clay tile shophouses. Even within the core central area are specialization districts such as sports at Kallang, education at Bras Basah, and Bugis, museums and arts at the civic district. Business at Raffles Place. Retail at Orchard, and the ethnic areas of Chinatown, Kampong Glam, and Little India. The area around Tanjong Pagar used to be the government office district post independence, but the centralization has meant that many offices have moved outside the city center. In fact, urban planners envision a new central business district in the west of Singapore at Jurong Lake, with several government offices having already moved there. Perhaps one day this model will be replaced by one of the Jurong Lake area. We complete our tour with a stop at Mount Faber, a natural ridge in the southern part of the island that rises to 106 meters, the third highest natural point in Singapore. The lookout affords visitors a panoramic view of southern Singapore. As important as the development of Singapore may be, so is the preservation of Singapore. This preservation is helmed by nature and Singapore's other moniker, the Garden City, and it began here on an early November day of 1971 with the planting of a tree for the nation's first tree planting day. With that move, accelerated the greening of the island into a garden and the preservation of nature areas such as this ridge. The tree before us is a sapling, the original rain tree. Surrounded to the north by high rises and south by islands with a wide range of uses, from recreational to industrial, our urban planners have amazingly allocated a spot on the island for almost everything, including a series of murals documenting our progress. These murals are hidden beneath the lookout point, with the first depicting the origin of Singapore Lion City. That kingdom in the 14th century thrived as a trading settlement, receiving boats as far as China. The next phase comes 5 centuries later with a British man, Sir Thomas Stamford Bingley Raffles, who negotiated a treaty to establish a trading port. These activities attracted immigrants from near and far, making the colony wealthy enough that the Japanese would want to take it for themselves. They were successful and occupied Singapore for 3 years and 8 months. The failure of the British sparked a wave of self-determination movements that culminated in an independent Singapore. Underlining the nation's ideology is a multicultural society of races living harmoniously with each other and in touch with the world. Our connections extend its global reach, both physically and electronically. We do not forget our past, embracing our arts and cultural heritage as we look forward to our future. The story of Singapore is a story 600 years old and still a work in progress. Many chapters have been written, but commonalities emerge in all of these chapters. It always begins with one man's vision, be it a Srivijayan prince, British statesman, or a Cambridge educated Straits Baba lawyer. It always involves the business of trading. It brings people together from all different cultures, and it looks set to stay this way for generations to come.